All right, this session, Eat, Pray, Love, is powered by Singapore Reimagined Global Conversations. As international borders gradually reopen, what will the new tourism landscape look like, and how can the industry work together to reshape the future of travel? So the Singapore Tourism Board recently launched its Singapore Reimagined Global Conversations, which is a new forum for industry leaders to exchange insights and spark ideas on the way forward. So the first forum was launched last month around experiences, and it will also delve into themes of travel journeys as well as sustainability and wellness. Today's panel will explore a very important topic, as we heard from Dr. Paul just now, about the mental health crisis that is awaiting the world. We're talking about how wellness can be reimagined in an urban city such as Singapore, and how the new traveler may eat, pray, love in pandemic times and beyond. Please welcome my panelists, Sarah Wan, General Manager, Singapore for Klook, Peng, CEO, Unlisted Collection, and Alexis Fosler, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Como Lifestyle. Please join me on stage. My healthy wellness panel. Okay, this is the healthy crowd, guys. All right, so we're going to start off with a poll for everyone first. All right, and it's about understanding the new traveler. And this new study that was put out by the global trend forecaster WGSN talked about 3 traveler personas, okay? One is Wanderlust, the travel diehards. And then 2 is the mindful explorer, which is cautious and purposeful re-engagement. And the slow pacer, which is who has adjusted to pandemic lifestyle and slow and easy does it. So we're going to ask each of them, what are you? Alexis, let me begin with you.
I would say I'm a mindful explorer. I love nature. I spend about a month a year in a tent. I've completed the Snowman Trek, which is supposedly the hardest trek in the world. I've walked across the Himalayas into India. I love that kind of travel because you are really kind of engaged in the land on which you tread and with the people and the places that you walk through. So yeah, that would be me.
Peng, can you top that?
I'm definitely a wanderlust. I mean, travel for me is just an essential part of my life, right? I like to experience new things. I like to travel the world. So the last 2 years have been pretty difficult for me. I'm definitely just ready to get on the plane and fly every month again.
Well, you did just come back from London. I like the way he said the last 3 years, because it's probably felt like 3 years to him. Yeah. Sarah, what about you?
Oh, for sure. Like Peng, I'm a wanderlust, working for a travel company. But even before COVID, I was a little bit of a slow pacer because, life is usually so hectic. It's good to slow it down once in a while.
All right, so switching to slow pacer. So I want to start with Sarah, right? Klook has been really fast in pivoting to the local market, which we all have to. And, NG gave you a good plug just now about cruising, right?
Yes,
so,
thanks, NG.
And you've been coming up with wellness experiences. Tell us the thinking that led to the creation of these products.
Yeah, so I think like Dr. Tambaya mentioned earlier, it's really, the pandemic has really resulted in everybody taking a step back and really considering the impact on their both physical and mental health as well. So at Klook, we actually ran a survey and we found that right now, 1 in 2 travelers actually look actively for wellness experiences. Yeah, so speaking from my own experience as well, also, I think so I wrote a post on LinkedIn which got blown up quite a bit. I actually was banned from work for 2 weeks, and I think we don't actually realize the impact that the pandemic takes on our mental health, because it permeates every aspect of our life, basically, not just work, but in everything that you do, right? It's now restricted. Yeah, so I think it's definitely a marked shift, and it's a permanent shift that is here to stay. Yeah, so for us at Klook, one of the things that we started exploring was actually really encouraging some of our merchants to think about how they could introduce wellness into their regular programming. So some of the pilot programs that we ran were, for example, high-intensity exercises at Changi Experience Studio, yoga at Resorts World Sentosa, so you could do yoga in front of the open ocean habitat at Sea Aquarium. And we have many other merchants also coming forward with experiences of their own, like yoga at Singapore Flyer, for example. But it's not just, isolated to the attraction space where they have a physical venue. We're also seeing tour agents, for example, looking at experiences that bring people out to the farms in Singapore, right? So a more alternate lifestyle within Singapore as an urban destination. And then hotels like Park Royal Marina Bay also introducing farm-to-table concepts. Yeah, so I think wellness is not just about the physical. There are different aspects to it. It could be mental, it could be just food, and it could also be, just trying a new activity for the first time. Yeah.
So it's given you like this rich platter actually
Yes.
to create new experiences from,
Yes.
So it's been very creative, and the fact that you actually had mental stress yourself probably made you much more empathetic to the consumer in Singapore. So Peng, I mean, you deal with food all the time. He's the one I follow on Instagram for food. The best food you know. And he's just returned from Ireland and London, where you operate hotels and restaurants. So what is the macro, you think, what is the global trend unfolding in the dining scene that you think will have a major influence on dining in Singapore?
I think one of the things that we're seeing is obviously, and it's related to the pandemic, right? People are worried much more about sustainability and where our food comes from. I mean, you hear a lot of stories about viruses coming from wild animals and, bats or whatever, right? People, I mean, it was a movement that happened maybe before the pandemic, but much like, technology and how we apply it to everyday lives is somewhat been accelerated by the pandemic. So we are seeing a shift in much more things like even just things like alternative proteins, right? And I think you are getting a much bigger demand than previously. Before that, you had Impossible and everyone ordered it because it was a fad. Actually, people are much more educated about it now. And I think that has something to do with the pandemic. People are much more conscious of what they eat, the healthier things. Vitamin sales have gone through the roof, right? And I think organic vegetables, things like all these kind of things, people are cooking a lot more at home. So as a restaurant industry, how do we tackle that? If people are much more health conscious and wanting to eat at home and cook much more at home, we have to react to that, right? We have to also make sure that whatever we present on the plate is transparent to them and as healthy as we can be.
Right. And Como, I mean, you run a lot of restaurants too. So how are your restaurants embracing this eat, pray, love with the new traveler in mind?
I mean, I think when we think about travel, we think about experiences. And so, really what we want to do is we want to bring experiences to everybody, be it domestic or international travelers. So one of my favorite restaurants is Como Cuisine. And at that restaurant, what we do is we bring different cuisines from all of the locations where our hotels are to the Dempsey ecosystem. So, you can go and you can have a Bhutanese curry or a Maldivian curry or something from Thailand. And so increasingly, I think what we're really trying to do is to increase the level of experiential, sensorial experiences.
Right. So when it comes to food waste, for example, right? I mean, Angie was talking about it, and I think the hoteliers are actually working with startups now, and airlines too, on food waste. So, Peng, how do you communicate that, or how do you communicate your sustainability practices to consumers?
I think one of the things you have to do is be transparent, right? Actually, for hotels now, and I think Angie will see this too, when you go out for tenders for rooms and all that, you have to have a sustainability statement, right? You got to tell them how many air miles your products come in, what biodigesters you use, whether you're using a biomass boiler, heat pumps and all these things. These are technologies that we are now integrating into our restaurants and hotels. Singapore, I would say we haven't done it to the same extent because perhaps it's a bit more fragmented here, right? But in Europe and in places like Australia, you're really seeing it coming to the fore. And it's going to catch up to Singapore. You're going to start seeing a lot more. But, nowadays, any corporate thing you do, practically the first statement thing you have to put in is what's your sustainability statement. So I think this is a global movement, and it's accelerating because you can see that the global kind of agenda, the climate agenda is much more to the fore now. So I think all of us who run businesses, whether you're a big or small business, this is an inescapable thing. So, one thing I would say to the audience is, whatever size of business you have, you better start thinking about it very hard. It's not not just this year, next year, you know, by 2025, 2026, 2027, you know, you better have all these things in a much more sophisticated manner than you have now. And all your consumers will start demanding it.
Right. Yesterday we had Peng, CEO of Sentosa Development Corporation, saying that basically sustainability will become, you know, like your HR or your governance, right? It's all part of it. So Alexis, I'm going to switch track. Alexis, you joined Como Lifestyle only in August this year, and you were from an All Fund Singapore, which is a fund distribution network, which is finance. What are your priorities for Como Lifestyle? Digitization?
Yeah, so I did, you're right, I did join. Actually, I joined a year ago and then we aggregated some businesses into the lifestyle business at Como. So I grew up with the brand and yes, I was in finance, but I've transitioned to healthcare. So personally, I have a master's in counseling and then a master's of science in international addiction studies. My priorities, I think, really from the business are to democratize wellness. What we want to do is we want to bring what we believe is our version of well-being to a greater number of people, those who can't travel, those who can't visit our hotels. So we are spending a lot of time and money on the development of some apps. And the idea really being is if we cannot go and visit places, if we cannot physically be in a place in which we engage in wellness, a gym or a spa, how can we still avail ourselves of those types of experiences? And so we're putting a lot of time and money, as I say, into a digital application, which hopefully we will be able to white label to others as well, to really be able to bring that kind of concept of a digital retreat anytime, anywhere to everybody.
A digital retreat, so almost a hybrid then with a virtual and a physical
Correct.
component. Okay,
Yeah.
Excellent. Peng, let's go to Peng and Sarah, right? Which aspect of technology are you most excited about in terms of what it can do to drive the concept of wellness among consumers? Sarah, let's begin with you.
Yeah, so for me, it's really about amping up the discoverability. Actually, in exploring the wellness space, and depending on which reports you're reading, the wellness industry at large is actually quite under-digitalized. So it's in most markets, it's 20% or less. And you see that a lot of these experiences are actually very fragmented. Yeah, so for me, it's really being able to match the experience with the consumer, and then thereafter, after they've enjoyed maybe one or two experiences, be able to customize what they're looking for. So that aspect, I think, is the most interesting for me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we can see like a Klook wellness category, all the wellness experiences. Okay. Peng, what about you? Which aspect of technology is really good for your dining?
So I think for looking at dining, right, if you look at the traditional business, it's been really kind of stuck in that rut for so many years. In fact, digitization wave largely passed by the F&B industry. If you look at the way we sell our restaurant seats, you know, and the food we present, all that has the digitization thing has totally passed us by. But I think one of the things that we have seen during this COVID thing is that we are able to reach our customers because we had no choice, right? Digitally, we had to really kind of reach out, and therefore that wave of digitization swept through the industry very quickly. And one thing that we noticed was that actually our customers are not resistant to it. They quite liked the fact that we were able to reach them digitally. Our fear, of course, at the start was that, hey, you know, you got to sit down and have the food. Are customers really going to want you to send them to their homes or to kind of do things digitally? Because we always felt we were very much an experience industry. But I think there is that sort of a movement now where customers are willing to engage with you digitally. There's some ability still to reach out to them and make sure they come to your restaurants. But we are looking at packaging different kind of foods that they can go home and cook themselves, right? Vacuum pack things. We are looking at cloud kitchens, and these are things that we're actively exploring, things that I would never have thought of, frankly, 2 years ago. And the digitization space allows us to reach the customers. And I think because customers, I think in the fine dining space also accepted that, that there would have to be the level of kind of distancing between what they were doing in a restaurant and what they were doing at home. And they accepted it. I mean, Odette was selling, I remember these roast chickens at home, right, for $180. It wasn't quite a 3 Michelin-star experience at home, but it brought you close enough that people were willing to accept it. That was a paradigm shift for
Wow,
us
so
in
it
the industry.
really broke down the walls, the barriers,
Yeah,
right? And
of what it meant to be
cloud
fine
kitchens-
dining, right?
Cloud kitchens are a breakout sector. Okay, so you're really tapping into a global trend. I mean, McKinsey estimates the global wellness market at more than 1.5 billion with annual growth of 5 to 10%, right? But wellness, somehow when it's not automatically associated with cities, right? When we think wellness, we think mountains, beaches, green space, right? So how can urban places like Singapore differentiate themselves? How can an urban city like Singapore rejuvenate and refresh travelers?
I think we got to play to our strengths, right? There's no way Singapore is going to compete with Bali on the spas and the beautiful landscapes they have, the rice paddy fields. We're not going to have that. Singapore, we have to play to our strengths. We are an urban environment. And what can we provide? We can provide variety and a high level of sophistication. So when we talk about wellness, it has to be the ability to go out and do many things on a different, on a day. You know, you can go to Como one day, you can go to another hotel another day. Look, at the end of the day, Singapore is a very rich, a very concentrated environment, and we got to play to those strengths. We're never going to be a beach destination, because no matter how many beaches you build on Sentosa, the view is not as nice as it is in Phuket. The water is not as clear as it is in Phuket. Let's be quite clear, right? And there's no jungle environment here that will ever compare to going to East Malaysia, for example. So I think, but Singapore can play to its strengths. Look at our zoo, right? If you want to see, bring the kids for a day out, this is the best zoo probably in the world. So I think that's the way Singapore has to compete.
Okay, what about you, Sarah? What do you think?
Yes, I actually completely agree with what Peng said. I think wellness is really not like a 2-hour program. Natural landscapes definitely play a part and give an advantage to a destination, but it's all about the mindful curation of activities here. And I think the domestic, being more focused on domestic during this period has really given a lot of players the kind of playground to start new experiences also. So we are seeing a lot of pockets of surprising things come out. So for example, did you know that you can groom horses and ride horses at Turf City now in Singapore? So a lot of new activities and surprising ones really popping out in the last couple of months.
Okay, and that should stand Singapore in good stead when the inbound traveler returns, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, Alexis, you run Como Shambhala experiences in 9 countries. I was looking at your website: Australia, Bhutan, Indonesia, Italy, Maldives, Singapore, Thailand, Turks and Caicos, and UK. All places I want to go to. How is the urban experience of Singapore different from the rest that you offer?
You know, I do agree with Peng and Sarah, but I also kind of think that to some degree it's actually very similar. I mean, I live in an area in Singapore where I have beautiful beaches, otters in my garden, you know, otters, fish, hornbills, you know, wild boar everywhere.
Wow. Where do you live?
And I think there are, you know, Singapore is nothing but, if not surprising, right? So I do think that we do offer those experiences, but I think, as Peng said, what I think is really critical here is that we have diversity. We have diversity of experiences. We have diversity of culture. We have, you know, diversity of services, right, and tradition. All of the traditions of wellness, the Eastern traditions, the Western traditions, all available to us in a very small area. So for me, I think the experiences are really not so different across the resorts that we run.
All right, so the response to our poll is 37% of you are wonder mask. 35% are mindful explorers, and about 28% are slow pacers. So quite an even spread, right, of the new travelers. Okay, let's talk about demographics. Is wellness age and gender agnostic? Sarah, what kind of customers are you seeing with your wellness offerings?
Yeah, so we are seeing a little bit more of a skew towards females, but not significantly. And obviously for the fitness regimes, the 18 to 34s are really coming up strong. But generally, and taking some of the pilot programs that we've run as an example, we are seeing a good spread across all age groups. And as wellness as a concept becomes a little bit more embraced, I think it will not be a demographics game, it will be a psychographics game. Yeah.
Hey, what kind of demographics are you seeing with your diners?
I mean, diners in Singapore are a mixed bag, right? We see everything from young, early 20s all the way through to their retirement kind of folks. And we get that whole spread in Singapore simply because this is one of the key activities in Singapore. If you're not living in a cave, you're going out to eat, right? And of course, the two restrictions of twos has put a crimp on that. But otherwise, we see a very broad spectrum. And I don't think there's any kind of segment that kind of really escapes the F&B industry in Singapore. It's practically a national pastime.
Alexis, how do you view your customers?
We see our customers as what we call the second summit seekers. And so by that, what we mean is we've stolen the nomenclature slightly from an amazing book, if you haven't read it, by David Brooks called The Second Mountain. And really customers who are looking for something beyond the traditional. They're looking for a sense of mission, a sense of purpose. They tend to be, for us, a little bit older, possibly because of the socioeconomic demographic that we play in. But I think, like Peng and Sarah, we have wellness is becoming democratized. There's an interest in wellness across the board. And whether that be aligned with your purpose, your mission, wellness from the heart, or whether it be, HIIT and kind of more active lifestyles, we do see a development across the board.
All right, so let's go to, October 10th was World Mental Health Day. Name one thing that each of you did, eat, pray, or love, for your own mental health during this period. And we're going to ask the audience too in the poll that's coming out right now. So what did you do for your own mental health, Peng?
I started exercising again. I became the laziest person for about over 10 years since I got married. But during lockdown, because the only way I could get out of the house was to go exercise, I started running again, and I lost about 6 or 7 kilograms.
Well done, I can see that. I can see that, Peng. Okay, Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, my team would know this very well, but I became a plant parent. So I have about 50 plants at home right now. Yeah.
All right. Alexis?
Service. So I counsel patients mostly with addiction.
Have you seen an explosion in people coming to you for counseling?
We've seen a huge increase in the number of patients seeking help for I guess, behavioral interventions and addictions and all manner of, anxiety, depression, things that you would normally associate with the pandemic.
Okay. So can you state one thing in each of your business that you're doing through your own work processes for your mental health of your team? Sarah.
Yeah. So for on the 8th of October to commemorate Mental Health Day, we actually had an office-wide shutdown. So we had brought in external speakers to actually give courses on mental resilience, and then encourage the team to take the afternoon to basically do whatever they wanted. I think a couple of us went to volunteer, and they did activities with their families and so forth. Yeah. So and we do have a series of workshops also coming up to encourage mental resilience during this time. Yeah.
Okay. Peng?
Well, for us, our industry is notorious for the long hours, right? So we have been actively looking at all our businesses and looking at switching everyone to literally 4-day weeks if we can, or shorter 5-day weeks if we can. So all our restaurants and hotels, we're now pivoting to looking at HR. And it's partly a response also to kind of demands of our workers, right? So if you look across all our restaurants and our business, we are starting to look at how we can do that, and we have started implementing it. And obviously, I think this has been a great response from our staff, both in terms of mental health as well as retention, and all the kind of matrices you normally look at for well-being, right? Yeah.
Right. Alexis, how about Como?
We run an integrated health and yoga and Pilates large studio in Orchard, so we encourage all of our staff to attend and make sort of practitioner sessions more freely available.
Right. Okay. So in the experiences you offer customers, I mean, since we are talking about mental health, right? Beyond meditation, yoga, retreats, and all that, how do you address that mental health aspect in the experiences? You know, you probably can because of counseling, your counseling experience, but how do you do that in a dining experience or your hotel experience? And Sarah, how maybe partnering with Como or something?
With the staff or customers?
Customers. Customers.
For us, I think we're still at rather nascent stages of this, but one of the things that we have found has worked is actually bringing in experiences that are out of the norm, or people wouldn't normally associate with wellness that directly. So, for example, our workshops, right, have really been a hit during this time. People basically want to break out of their routines and try something different. So in actually presenting some of these activities upfront to customers, it's actually benefiting their mental health. So for us, it's about maybe redefining what are the activities. It's not just, meditation workshops or fitness classes, but it can just be something that is out of the norm of your schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, like making bubble tea. Apparently, that was a big hit in Singapore.
During
Like,
the
what's
first
your bubble
certificate.
tea? You know,
Yeah.
what is your USPs? What's your bubble tea? Peng?
Well, for us, we are in the business of happiness. People come to us because they want to come out and enjoy themselves, right? It's hospitality. We are imbued with that spirit so deeply that anyone who comes to us should really kind of leave happy. I hope so. When we set up our restaurants, when we set up our hotels, it's all about the well-being of the customer. Even before COVID happened, right? And that's maybe accelerated things too. Now with COVID, it's much more important. So I feel that honestly, if someone's coming to us, if they're having a bad day, I hope when they leave, they're having a great day. We try and make them happy in every way that we can.
Right. Alexis, from your perspective with your masters in counseling?
I mean, obviously, from a lifestyle perspective, we, like Peng, we believe in hospitality. So we have the hotels, we have the restaurants, we have fashion, right? So it's the look good, feel good, move good, think well, be well. But I think from a specifically a wellness perspective, what we're doing is we are perhaps raising up the number of, counseling, coaching, life coaching, fertility coaching. More that kind of, mental health capabilities in all of our centres.
Right. I mean, we had Dr. Tambia just now talking about how important travel is for mental health, right? And travel is supposed to be, spreading happiness, and so is dining. So we are actually in the perfect industry to be responding to this humanitarian crisis of, of mental health right now. So we should go for it and just grab those customers and say, travel and eat and be happy. All right. So back to the new traveler post-pandemic, which is Wanderlust, remember, and Mindful Explorer or Slow Pacer. Pick one segment that you're most interested in. Sarah.
For us, obviously, it's the Wanderlust, right? I think we are very much expecting revenge travel to happen. But one interesting, maybe thing that's come out of the survey that we ran recently also is Singaporeans, at least Singaporeans, desire to re-explore some of the popular destinations that they have been to in the past. So this re-explorer category is something that we're dipping our toes into.
Re-explore, okay, for the Singaporean market.
I think for all of us in the travel industry, we are definitely all hoping for the travel must, right? Because at the end of the day, look, I think anyone who's in the travel industry, from airlines to cruises to hotels, we need a big lift right now. And I think 2022 and 2023 better be a very big bounce back. So I'm definitely rooting for travel must.
All right, otherwise it's like a dead cat bounce.
Yeah.
Alexis.
I'll moderate and say all of the above. I mean, we have very large domestic tourists who come to all of our hotels and resorts and our restaurants as well. But I think, look, wellness is for everybody. We need to democratize it. Everybody needs to be able to take advantage of well-being, and so that's what we do.
All right, the full spectrum of Second Summit customers.
Correct.
All right, so our audience, what did they do for their own mental health? Almost 60% were like you, Peng. They exercised and they attended a fitness class, and most of them have lost weight. 14.5% read a book. 8.1% expressed themselves through art. 3.2% ate healthily. Peng, you need to do a better job with them. And 15% meditate. So we really need to do a better job.
That's Como's job.
All right. Okay, finally, just name the wellness experience you most want to experience when this is over. And Alexis, you must not mention Como.
What is the wellness experience I would most like to do when this is over?
Yes.
Gosh, I think you're going to have to come back to me. I'll let Peng go.
Peng, we go with you first.
I would really like to go on a nice, long family holiday with my kids and the wife and just do nothing, go and eat in nice restaurants, go for hikes, go skiing maybe, and really just unwind. Actually do nothing, but just hang out, go to a different environment other than Singapore, stare at the ocean,
Okay.
maybe go for a hike in the forest. That's just all I want to do. Nothing too exciting. I
All
just
right,
want to
so-
spend time with family.
Okay, so the name of the experience is called Traveling for Nothing. Okay, Sarah.
This was on the bucket list even pre-COVID. I wanted to do a silent retreat in Bali. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Yes, you've reminded me.
We can go together.
Bizarrely enough, I would really like to. I'd like to go and do a meditation retreat in Bhutan.
All right, okay. Please join my panelists, Sarah, Peng, and Alexis. Thank you so much.